Hey, Tali, welcome back. I can't hear you. Are you muted?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So I'm next to Freezed Archie.
Yes. So it's a different view. I apologize for if that's distracting, but what I did is I have to do previews before, and because you were speaking with him earlier, I didn't set it up just me and you. But anyway, shouldn't be an issue.
Mhm.
But thank you for that session. I always ask people with their session, was there anything you wish you added to the session, or you really want people to take away from the session that they could put into place right away? Because there was a lot of awesome information there.
A lot of information, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You, as, as you've noticed, I talk. I tend to talk, but I tend to talk in a very open and honest way. And maybe it's close to my heart because before I became product management, I used to lead the R&D for the past 5 years. So I led the whole ADM R&D before. So I was actually very close to the transformation myself, and did a lot of changes around structures and cultures that needed to change. So really, it's close to my heart, but it enables me when I talk to customers, to walk the talk. What I would say, there are so many things that I can say that matters. What I would say is maybe the first thing is know your organization before you do anything. Know the people that are involved. Know your managers. You know what matters for them and how they will support you. Know your colleagues. Know the ecosystem, and know what's important to your business. Because I always say back in the ERP days, it was all about you. You don't just take an ERP and just put it in your organization and start working with it. You have to adjust the system to fit to your product, to fit to your organization. So same goes with Agile and DevOps. So know your organization and then adjust the processes and practices accordingly. Because there's no cookbook, right, for how to practice those methodologies. I mean, there are frameworks, but again, it's up to how you adjust it to fit your organization needs. So this is the first thing. The second thing I say, like, engage your ecosystem, engage the people, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people involved, and we have to be sensitive for our environment and the people. And there will some people that will feel threatened, from change, and there will some people that will embrace the change. And at the end of the day, we want all the people involved and engage. And you have to be very sensitive to the needs and how to engage people. I would say up to a point, because at the end of the day, you want to be successful. Um, but that's always the case. Um, the third thing that I would say is, have the right system and tools in place, because it's a lot about automation and how the system works and how you enforce the processes within the system. Because it's great that we have processes, but at the end of the day, if no one's following it, at least in the beginning, then you cannot really see the change and the improvement. So this is why a solid, trusted system is very much important. But again, it's not the first thing I would say. It's definitely the third. So I think this is it. And have fun. Yeah.
Awesome. What really struck me is were your thoughts on continuous learning. And I think you mentioned this. A lot of people look for other companies, like how does Google do this and how does Facebook do this, rather than look at how do we do this and how can we improve on our process? Is that something you see companies sometimes getting mixed up with what their ideal is compared to what the ideal is out there in the tech community?
Totally. And I mean, what you said is spot on. Is Yes, you can look at other companies, and I think it's great to see how other companies are, practicing things. But you have to understand that, if I look at an enterprise or a financial institution, it's nothing like, Facebook's or Google. So, you know, uh, Google can do A/B testing, or Facebook can do, for example, A/B testing. So they can roll a feature, to a stage environment of their customers, And to be honest, if it doesn't work out, then they roll back, right? So they had a limited exposure, and they can roll really frequently changes, and test them in like crowd, with like crowd testing. But if we're looking at the bank, it's a totally different story. They cannot afford themselves even to have mistakes or quality issues, because it will cost sometimes millions of dollars. So you can look at these companies and look at how they practice things, and you can maybe adopt and see things that can fit your organization. But at the end of the day, you live in your own micro organization and you know it best. So you can like adopt Spotify, but you adopt it and adjust it in a way that will fit your organization. So to your point, I would look at more to be inspired by other companies and look at how they do it. But at the end of the day, the center is your organization, and adjust what you saw to what you have.
Awesome. Okay, Tal, let's get to the first question here. And they want to know, can you specify additional cultural changes you faced during the journey?
Oh, yeah. So there were many cultural changes. And I think, there was one sentence that I said in the keynote, is that in order to, like, a culture is like a shadow of the organization. And if you really want to change a shadow, you have to change like the core thing, right? So if you want to change culture, then you have to change, some things in the organization. I think, there are a couple of things. First of all, the way we reward or, so to speak, punish in our organization. It's not punishment, but it's basically what we respect and in our organization. What kind of behaviors, like collaboration, communication. So this is something the organization really need to appreciate and reward, so to speak. It doesn't have like, real reward, but a recognition. So to recognize the efforts that teams are doing in order to collaborate, to recognize the efforts that QA are now part of, or some of the products are now, part of the R&D organization, and appreciate the collaboration, because it's not always easy. Because when you start sometimes to decentralize stuff and to change structures, then it's very important that we're sensitive to the change. Now there are changes which you have to do. Like in a couple of products, we were structured as the platform layer, the logic layer, the UI. And, we try to work in a virtual way. We try to collaborate and communicate, but it didn't work. At the end of the day, we needed to change the structure in order to, to get to the right effect. So developer can look at it holistically at a feature and at an application module, and it's not really dependent. So we can take accountability of a feature. And, speaking about accountability and responsibility, it's all about a change in the mindset. So you no longer look at your own module, but you're looking at the holistic picture. And as management, we have to constantly get the people to get to this mindset. So whenever we talk about the quality, for example, we don't just speak to the quality organization. We're looking also at the developer and the R&D to take responsibility on the quality. So it's not just the problems of the testers or the developers, but it's a holistic problem that we all take part in it. But we did also symbolic events like sprint, like Scrum meetings, and also in a fun way. We did sprint events where the teams demonstrate what they did. We had some food, some things. You just want to make it like light and fun, and get the people that are involved to be proud of what they did. And also, it's about working with the systems and the tools and making it happen. So we had to enforce things in the tool. You cannot just, move from one environment to another if you didn't pass the criteria, right? Done is done. So some things still needs to be enforced within the tool in order to change behaviors.
Absolutely. So I know a lot of people when they're talking about DevOps and transformations, a lot of times manual testing gets left out. So here's a question from Chris. He wants to know, testing early is great, but how do you leverage techniques to also boost the effectiveness of manual testing?
So manual testing, first of all, I'm the one that will tell you that you cannot avoid manual testing. The machine is awesome, right? And automation is a critical thing, but I don't think, and I always, say that I think manual testing has a place. Now it's changed its course, right? So it's no longer, it's less about written, click here, do that, and this is what you need to expect. It's not about that. The manual testing will become more business-driven testing. So you'll get the subject matter expert and get them explore the system. So it's more about manual exploratory testing. It's about business-driven testing. So you're actually reflecting what you see in the production environment and try to reflect the use cases in specific customer-like use cases. So you want to focus your manual testing on the business, on the business aspects, where you need to have a subject matter expert sit in front of the system and actually work with it. And this sometimes cannot be, there's not replacement for that. There is also now the notion of, there has been of BDD, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, our, the vision is to be able to, turn these scripts into automated scripts eventually by NLP. And, these are things that we're working also in our company. But so behavior-driven testing is part of it. It starts with taking the assets and turning it eventually into automation. But again, it's not a magic, right? So I still think that there is a big place for manual testing. It's just it needs to be very focused on business and exploratory testing rather than anything else.
Great answer. So we have a question from Carlos. I'm sure you get this asked often. Which tool is suggested for test management when the company uses multiple methodologies, Waterfall, Agile, Scrum, DevOps, for different projects, ALM Quality Center, or Octane?
Well, that's a great question, because in 90%, I said it before, there is no black and white here. There will be a lot of gray, especially with big companies and big organizations and enterprises. There will still be legacy projects or system that will have their own place, while, some applications and some methodologies will change and advance. And I think the secret is recognize this hybrid environment and cope with it. Don't try to change what cannot be changed, because otherwise you will end up with different, different goals or different results. What you want to be able to do is look at a portfolio of products that will enable you this hybrid environment, this bi-model environment. Now, we look at ALM, we all know ALM. It's a quality management, testing execution, and repository tool, and it's a leader in its segment, a leader in its area. And what we want to be able to do is there will be projects that will still be, using ALM, but when we were thinking of the different set of problems that, are typically in Agile and DevOps, we came up with Octane. So it's a different way of practicing things. So, for example, all of the execution is from the CI, right? So we don't have direct execution of tests from Octane. So, but Octane integrates with ALM. So organization can still use ALM for some of the project while, syncing the results and syncing and basically and have ALM as a repository while it's data flows from ALM to Octane. So the thing is that Octane becomes the layer of governance while you have many tools underneath, and ALM is one of the tools that will still be there. It's still creating a lot of values in many organizations. We still innovate and enhance the product. We've just released ALM 15 with a lot of innovation and also a pure web interface that enables you to execute tests and create defects. So there's a lot going on with ALM, and the important thing is that ALM and Octane can work in a bimodal approach where you can still see the analytics and the governance in Octane and still work with ALM as quality management and test management tool.
I think that's a great point. I actually worked for a huge organization that still used ALM, but they did all these weird hacks to get it to interact with all these other, sprint type CI tools. But it sounds like Octane probably would have been the better option because it's like a wrapper that not only speaks for ALM, but all these other solutions. So that's awesome. I don't know why I wish I still worked for this company so I could tell them, but that seems like a great solution there. All right, Tal, we have one other question. They want to know, can Octane integrate with Jira and sync data? If so, what sort of data can it sync?
So yes, Octane can sync with Jira. We have released, what we call MF Connect. It's our integration and sync solution. It's actually available in the marketplace. It's downloadable, and it basically has an Octane connector that syncs also to Jira. And, I'm sure Omer will talk about it in his session, but it actually can sync artifacts like, user stories and issues and requirements. So it can basically sync all of the artifacts from Jira. And again, it depends on the use cases. So I suggest if, specific people are interested in specific use cases, because it's a huge world out there, with all of the artifacts that are available in Jira. So we can definitely address that. But yes, there is a connector available from Octane, from Jira to Octane and vice versa.
Awesome. Tal, I think I just lost track of time. We ran out of time for questions. Like I said, your session was full of awesome information. Is any last words of wisdom you want to leave the guild before leave Vivid ADMDs before we go to the next session?
So Joe, I said more than enough today.
Yeah, you've been awesome.
But yeah, I mean. But yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's about having fun because we all wanna do change and do it like with pure joy. So I welcome you if anyone has any other questions. You can always turn to me offline. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it.
Awesome. Thanks again. Really appreciate you and all you do for the community and this awesome information. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Bye bye.
Cheers.